I would like to call to order the April 9th, 2020 regular Grayson County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Amid the COVID-19, or our current situation with the COVID-19, this meeting is being conducted via teleconference. And just for the record and for everyone following this meeting through the means of YouTube, I would like to have a call to order the board members that will be present. I am Mike Hash, Vice Chair. Mr. Belton, the Board Chair. I conduct this meeting due to obligations with the power company calling away. Roll call, Mr. Belton. Okay. Ms. Sutherland.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Present. Present. Okay. Mr. Smith, could I ask you to lead us in the invocation and then the pledge?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Father, thank you for the blessings of life that you bestow upon us each day. We pray for our nation and our state in Grayson County during this time. We pray for a healing of our land. Keep everyone safe. Keep our board safe, our employees of Grayson County. We ask that you just put a hedge around everyone and keep them safe and their families. Help us tonight in this meeting. Thank you for a board that is able to meet to do county business. We pray that you give them clarity of thought tonight. Go with us in this meeting, for it's in your name we pray. Amen.
And
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. The quorum simply stated is that we will conduct this meeting with the type of behavior consistent with that exercise during any court or legislative room in the state of Virginia. And moving on to the agenda, I do have one request from Mr. Shepley, and that will be before Mr. Howell speaks, that he would like to speak briefly.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chairman Hash. I appreciate that.
One moment, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Having received a copy of the agenda and the consent agenda prior, and with that amendment, do I have a motion to accept the agenda and consent agenda?
Tom Rathman so moves. Second.
All right.
John Fant.
John Fant, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Aye. Any nays? All right. Hearing none, Mr. Shepley, please.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Hash, and thank you to the board. This message is really to the board, but also to the people of Grayson County. We want to thank you for all the diligent work you've done to try to keep our county safe. I'm very proud of the hard work and the volunteerism and the efforts to keep us from this coronavirus that has surrounded us. It's all around in every county around Grayson County. Thank goodness it's not here yet, but this is the worst time. This time and then leading through the rest of April and into at least the first week of May is the most critical time. So please continue to follow all the guidelines that have been given to you and to keep yourself safe. The key thing is try to stay indoors. I'm very proud of your response to the coronavirus. Please continue to limit your visits to places where you will not interact with 10 or more people. We want that is a statewide rule to keep our aggregation of folks to under 10. We will get through this together. We will get through this by respecting one another and taking the time to concentrate on staying at home right now and getting as much done as we can and not going out unnecessarily. Tonight we will share with you the activities of the county and the tremendous amount of volunteers that have stepped forward in Grayson County to help keep you safe. We'll have two presentations. The first will be by Paul Hoyle. Paul is our emergency services coordinator for the county. Paul has done an unbelievable job in the short time that he's been here in helping us to coordinate the activities that we need to do and to respond to the regional, state, and federal recommendations to keep our people safe. And we appreciate all that Paul's done and all that Paul will do as we move forward. After that, we will hear from Chris Butler, the owner of Eagle View Event Center here in Grayson County, who has very generously agreed to chair the formation of a Grayson County Small Business Recovery Committee that has had a couple meetings by phone so far and is starting to have a significant impact. He's going to give you an overview of what we've done so far, but he's mainly going to be telling you about what it is that you can do as a small business owner to best position your particular business to survive this crisis and to thrive in the future. We want to be ahead of the ball game. While we're working as hard as we can to deal with the crisis right now, we want to be prepared for the recovery. And Chris is going to is helping us to do that along with the rest of the members of that committee. So at this time, Supervisor Hash, I'd like to turn this over to Paul Hoyle.
Thank you. Mr.
You may have to turn that on. Can everyone hear me?
Sure.
So wish good evening to everyone, members of the board, members of the public who are on. It's a little bit of a challenge for us the first time, so work with us as we get through technology. I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about the responses that the county has made to the COVID-19 emergency to date and take any questions that you might have. We started tracking this, my office started tracking this informally all the way back to January. When emergency managers kind of all over the state and all over the country started looking into what's going on overseas. Our first real formal meeting with the county took place on 12 March when the executive staff of the county got together and started talking about what we expected to see happen as a result of actions taken by the governor's office and other government agencies, particularly the health department within the state. We started doing the daily tracking and evaluation, and primarily the source we used for those trackings were the Department of Emergency Management, the Department of Health, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. On the 12th of March, we also started resource tracking. We did that based on the possibility at the time that there would be a declaration of emergency by the governor, in which case we would need to have a good list or a good spreadsheet of the expenses that the county had expended in our response to COVID-19. And then, of course, on the 12th of March, we did get Executive Order 51, which was a declaration of emergency by the governor of Virginia. We continued planning at that point. The next major action that was taken by the county was on the 17th of March, where we did a county declaration or a local declaration of emergency. On the same date, we did a public statement of emergency and a press release with the same. We submitted so that the public and our citizens in the county could be aware of where we were. And at that time, we also started providing sit reps to the state so that the Department of Emergency Management was aware of what actions the county was taking in response to the COVID-19 emergency. On 18 March, we started looking at the amount of supplies we had, particularly as regards the non-emergent or the non-fire and EMS needs for our employees, make sure that they could stay safe at the same time they continue to carry out government functions. And we actually started our first purchase through the state at that time. The equipment that we looked at purchasing at that time was what we thought would be necessary to screen our employees and visitors to the courthouse and other government buildings. Make sure that if it became necessary, we could do screening of everybody coming in to the buildings, and then daily screening of our employees, make sure that they were healthy and remained healthy. On the 19th of March, I started working with a volunteer coordinator. We saw a need to take actions beyond the abilities of the county employees in order to prepare and provide services to the citizens during this emergency. So we had volunteers already lining up at the door. I worked with Kathy Cole and asked her to take on the role as the volunteer coordinator, which she took on at that point and has continued to maintain since then. I would like to state that we have over 30 volunteers that have volunteered for service, and we'll discuss some of the things that they're doing in a little bit. But it's been a pretty awesome response to me, from my perspective at least, to see as many people out in the county that have come forward to see what they can do to help with the county's response to the COVID-19 emergency. We've had at least as many volunteers as we've had county employees working on the same problem, so that's pretty awesome. 20 March, we did complete our first order for protective equipment for county employees and emergency responders. Those would include the fire, EMS, law enforcement officers for the county. We also saw a need at that time to make sure that our messaging to the public was improved, and so we established a COVID-19 webpage on the county's website so that people would have kind of one-stop shopping for information, so they wouldn't have to go to 6 or 7 different websites to figure out what was going on and what they needed to do. That's been a work in progress. It started out as one page, and now it's several pages. Depending on what your needs are, you can find information on the COVID-19. You can find information that affects our county businesses, or if we have people with individual or personal needs, we have a place where they can go for resources. We just try to cover as many bases there as we could and provide one place where everyone in the county can go to look for assistance. On the 21st of March, we began reporting our burn rates with our protective equipment to the state. So basically, burn rate, we looked at how much of our protective equipment we're using on a daily basis, and we were reporting that to the state through the Department of Emergency Management so that they could start looking at what it was going to take and how long it was going to take to get us replacement equipment. On 23 March, we established our first teleconferencing capability, and we have 2 different programs or 2 different platforms for teleconferencing now, so we've got some depth in case one of them turns out not to work well for us. We are holding all county business meetings now pretty much through teleconferencing. We also began resource tracking for all of county employees and our volunteers. So anybody who's doing anything in response to the COVID-19 emergency is tracking both what they're doing and how long they're doing it and what equipment they're using to do it. So that, again, when we start putting the paperwork together for submission to the state so that we can get some money back for the declaration, we should have our ducks lined up. We also made that resource tracking retroactive to the beginning of the emergency. Initially, we went back to 12 March, and now that's retroactive back to the 20th of January. On the 23rd of March, the governor of Virginia also implemented Executive Order 53, which primarily resulted in a reduction, a recommendation that people not come together in groups of more than 10. At that point, they made a recommendation for non-essential businesses in several categories to change the way they were doing business. For instance, restaurants, they've shifted to delivery or takeout methods, and there have been several other impacts on business. We also started looking at staffing modifications for the county. So So we looked at different ways that we can staff the government offices of the county, still provide function, at the same time we were minimizing the potential for exposures. On 26 March, we did another PPE order with the state. We had a meeting with the Emergency Services Committee for the state, bringing all the leadership of all our emergency services agencies together. We did that by teleconference, and that meeting was pretty much concerning only COVID-19 emergency issues. We did a lot of talking about plans for how we were responding, how we were protecting our responders, how we were going to control the PPE and make sure that we had appropriate amounts of PPE coming back. And we are continuing to, we also agreed at that meeting to step up that meeting from its normal rotation to a 2-week, if we have that meeting every 2 weeks now. We submitted our second sit rep to the state on that date. On 27 March, we released our second press release updating the public on actions that the county's taken to date and re-emphasizing the need for everybody to take part in the social distancing and the other efforts that we were using to try to make sure that we keep the exposure to COVID-19 to a minimum within the county. We also received our first shipment of supplies from the Strategic National Stockpile on that day. On 30 March, we established an agreement with the local hotel to provide space for emergency responders who might become exposed to COVID-19 so that they would have a place to isolate themselves, not at their own expense, and not requiring them to take that possible exposure home to their family. We have not had reason to use that yet, but we still have it in agreement and ready to go if we do need it in the future. We also registered with the Department of Health for contact notification then, so that if we do get a positive case within Grayson County, we will have formal official notification of that through the health department so that we can take appropriate actions. That was also the date that Governor of Virginia implemented Executive Order 55, which is the current stay-at-home rules that we're working in, and he also increased the restrictions on the operation of non-essential businesses on that day. The next day, on 31 March, we established a small business recovery committee, and you're going to hear more about that from Mr. Butler following this presentation. On 1 April, we established the Emergency Relief Fund for Grayson County. We identified a need for recognizing individual needs from citizens within the county who may not qualify for other programs such as the United Way or some of the other larger programs, including Red Cross. We've gotten a lot of support from all of our charitable organizations, including our faith-based organizations, but what we wanted is a place where anybody could go if they had a need and we could plug it with the appropriate resource. We also began on that day to take donations for that. We are continuing to work that process. That pretty much takes us through to today, or yesterday. We created a flyer to include with the backpacks and the meals that are going out through the school system to make sure that the public is aware of both the website and the helpline number that we've established so that anybody with any needs can make them known to county so we can follow up with them. I also wanted to give you an idea of where we're getting our information, what information are we acting on, because there's a lot of information out there. Some of it is legitimate, some of it is less so. So we're pretty careful about our information sources, and we want to make sure that you understand what those sources are. One of them is obviously the President of the United States press conference, which is taking place between 5 and 7 days a week. We are monitoring that on a daily basis when it takes place. We also have the Governor of Virginia press conferences that are 3 times a week, and we track those as well. We also have a BDM West, or a Department of Emergency Management West weekly conference call that we sit on, and that basically covers the Region 4, which is where we're at, along with Region 3 and Region 6, I believe. And we have a conference call within Region 4 itself on a weekly basis. We also have a weekly conference call with the Department of Health and with our local health department
And to be completely frank, we have dozens of other calls that we've been on over this period of the last month, and we take those on an as-needed basis. So again, our primary sources are those conference calls. Also, for information, our primary sources, we use the Centers for Disease Control recommendations and guidelines. We follow the Virginia Department of Health guidelines. We also track North Carolina Department of Health because they're very close neighbors, and we want to have a good understanding of how they're responding to what they're doing so we can be consistent in our approaches. We're working very closely with Mount Rogers Health Department, their providers and their planner, and we're working on almost at least 2 or 3 times a day. I'm in contact with the Department of Emergency Management, particularly the Region 4 folks. And on less frequent but still important level, we're working with FEMA and many other organizations throughout the state. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. I would like to particularly thank several people, our citizen volunteers. We have volunteers that are answering our helpline that we've established. So anytime somebody's got a need, they dial the number that's on our website, and they will get one of our volunteers who will take their call, provide information if they have the ability to provide it. If they don't, they'll take the information and pass it on to me, and I'll get it farmed out to whoever does have that information. They are also running logistics runs, so they'll go pick up emergency supplies from one location and pass them on to another location within the county and within our neighboring jurisdictions. We are also very appreciative of our business partners within the county who have stepped up, one, to do the right thing and make sure that they're following the guidelines that the governor's established and the health department have established. And also, they've just been very supportive of what we're doing at the county level to provide support to us and make sure we have what we need. I should make aware also that in addition to the press conference, the White House also has a conference call. I believe that was a weekly. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're on that one also. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and open up and ask if the board has any questions that they would like me to address on what we've done up to this point or what we expect to do.
Mr. Hull, this is Brenda. I just want to personally thank you for everything you're doing because I have had so much positive feedback from all our workers and volunteers and everything, and I do thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm just one person, and I'm surrounded by everybody who's trying to accomplish so much, and they're basically carrying all the weight.
Hey, Paul, John.
Paul, I second that from the west end of the county as well. You're doing an excellent job.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Paul, John. That's a good update. My question about the Emergency Relief Fund. Now, on the website, it's not part of the United Way, correct? It's a separate fund specific for Grayson County Relief. Is that correct?
That is correct. We set this one up because the money that goes to the United Way, one, it doesn't go to individuals. It goes back to charitable organizations within our communities. But we can't guarantee that you, as a Grayson County citizen, can give to the United Way and that money will come directly back to the county. The money that's given to the Emergency Relief Fund for Grayson County is both collected and administered and distributed by Grayson County people. So it stays in the county 100%.
And so if a nonprofit or an organization wants to be part of that fund to be able to get distributions, how does that work?
Right now, we are requesting that they contact us through the helpline and make their position known. We will go ahead and process it from there, but that gives us kind of one point to work from.
Okay. And then last question is, I noticed there's 2 ways to donate by Dropbox or by mail. Is there a online option in the works?
It's in the works. We're not there yet. And the best I can tell you is we're talking about how we can make that happen. We're pretty sure we can make it happen. But obviously we're coordinating this through the Treasurer's office, and we have to make sure that it works within their system and also stays within the law.
Okay. Hey, well done. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
This is Supervisor Hash, and I don't think your arrival to Grayson County could have been more timely. You've been a godsend, and we appreciate you. I echo the others. We appreciate all your hard work. And stay safe.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to do what I'm trained to do for an entire career. I just wish we didn't have to do it.
Okay. At this, we're pretty close to, we have an announced public hearing, and Mr. Butler would pardon the interruption. I have just about 1 more minute to being 6:30, and we'll conduct our public hearing. And as quick as we conduct our public hearing, we will start back on the agenda with Mr. Butler. It appears, let's see. Okay, I've got right here. I have a motion to go into public hearing for the purpose of hearing to receive comment regarding an application for Mr. Kenneth Belton at 638 Old Baywood Road regarding a wedding venue, tax map number 21A53.
This is Supervisor Fan. I make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, we are now in public hearing. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Jada Black to present for our public hearing this request.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. I hope you can hear me.
Got you good.
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yes, we're going into public comment regarding a special use permit. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on March the 17th to consider a special use permit application for Mr. Kenneth Belton. And it was to operate a rustic wedding venue and also to hold special events such as reunions or parties in an already pre-existing barn on his property. The barn itself sits on 43.85 acres and is primarily used as an active farming operation. And it is also located in the Old Town District. The Planning Commission members discussed site characteristics, access from Old Baywood Road, water and sewer needs, general safety for the public, along with a discussion about joining landowners. At the time of the public hearing on March the 17th, there were no public comments, nor did I receive any comments by letter, phone, or electronically. And also wanted to note that Mr. Belton owns the closest, and he is the closest neighboring property. Additional discussions from the Planning Commission members, Mr. Belton, they had for Mr. Belton was the structural integrity of the barn, which he felt was adequate. It had some new roof and some remodeling to that. One asked about lighting and heating and cooling, and Mr. Belton stated that as the barn is primarily used for agricultural use, he would like for it to kind of stay that way as far as the aesthetics goes. He wants it to stay as a rustic venue, so limiting the lighting basically to dusk to dawn outside and just some lights on the inside. I believe there is already electricity, and in my staff report that you are presented in the board pack, there's some pictures there that kind of show the barn. It does show a past birthday party for his grandson, so it does have some lighting on the inside. He does plan to do bathrooms, men's and women's, and he did state that there would be no heating and cooling, that the use would only be for really the warmer months. So the Planning Commission approved the special use permit to be considered by the Board of Supervisors with no restrictions, with a vote for 8 to 0. At this time, if you've got any questions for me.
Okay, anyone with questions?
Hey, Supervisor Fant, the only question that I didn't see in the packet was there discussion about hours of operation?
Yes, Mr. Fant, there was. We discussed that somewhat, and it came down to one of our commission members stating because it's set on 43.85 acres and didn't seem to be harming any of the adjoining landowners in regards to noise like we would have in our other venue. This one being so far remotely out in the field, they did not feel that it was necessary to oppose any or implement any kind of time restrictions.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
This is Mr. Rebels' question. Was there any evaluation done on the impacts on traffic in the area?
I do know that there is already a VDOT entrance permit, so they did take that into consideration, I'm sure, when they granted him the commercial entrance. But as far as having a traffic study done, there was not one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll and this was advertised in the comments were due by 5 o'clock today, is that correct?
Yes, sir. It is my understanding that all comments were to be emailed or contact the administration office by 5 o'clock today.
Okay. That being satisfied,
Supervisor Hash, I did check with Ms. Osborne before we came in the meeting, and she did not receive anything in the mail, emails, phone calls, anything regarding this today, as of today.
okay. Well, I guess we need to come out of public hearing if there's no other further comment, and then entertain a motion or a motion prior.
I make a motion we come out of the end of public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Will this need a motion for approval?
I make a motion. We approve the application.
Okay, that's Mr. Rebels.
That's correct.
I second.
Okay. Mr. Fant. Okay, I'm not going to do a roll call vote just because of the simplicity of knowing we're helping Linda, okay? Ms. Sutherland?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Rebels? Mr. Fant? Mr. Belton?
I'll abstain, sir.
Okay, abstained. Supervisor Hash, aye. Okay. That will get us through the public hearing portion of the meeting. Now, Mr. Butler, I appreciate your patience, and we'll return back to the agenda. Recognize Mr. Butler.
Sorry about that. I was already talking on mute, so this is going well for me in the first 30 seconds. I apologize. I will skip the "can everybody hear me okay" now since you laughed at me there. I think that Carl has a presentation there, and that's just coming up for everybody now. So we started. I called one of the supervisors and said, "Hey, what do you think of this idea?" It got warm reception. I went on and talked to Mr. Shepley, and we came up with a Grayson County Small Business Recovery Committee. And first question is, why was it formed? Ultimately, we wanted to help small businesses immediately. Everyone in Grayson County government has been tremendous to work with as I rolled through starting my business here. And I know that everyone wants to help small business. Sometimes we forget that perception is reality and need to show everyone what we are doing. So the committee itself was formed to not only help the businesses, and that's the number one priority, but also to make sure that everyone knows that we are out here helping businesses and that perception of that as we go forward. We started it so that we would know where businesses could go for help. We wanted a single point of contact, and if they called the county, if they went to the website, if they had questions, they could find that person. That person is me. I may not know all of the answers, but I know that I can direct them to someone for help, and people aren't calling all over the county and trying to figure out where they can go if they needed to get help. We wanted a way to not just help small businesses through this, but also a way to keep them in front of local residents during this time. We'll see later on in the presentation some ways to just remind Grayson County residents that these small businesses are still there when all of this is over. And we also wanted a plan to come out the backside of this and make sure that residents know that these businesses will survive and that they're going to need their support when it's back open. Tracy Cornett with tourism, has already done a great job and is doing so daily on that. And we're going to team with Tracy as we go through a lot of this. But that's the reason that a lot of this was formed as we went forward. The team that is the Grayson County Small Business Recovery Committee, it's myself as the chair, Chris Butler. We've got Elizabeth Hash with Skyline. We've got Andy Anderson. We've got Aaron Cox, Brantley Ivy, and then Bill Shepley and Carl Cottle are also members of the committee as well. What are we doing in the committee as we go through these meetings? First of all, we are helping to understand and helping businesses to understand what loans or grants are available to them. Probably the one that I've got the most call on, and the one that we probably should get the most call on, is the Paycheck Protection Program. We'll call it the PPP. That is the government stimulus package that was passed just recently by Congress and put $350 billion out for small businesses. A small business in this case is anything under 500 employees. That payroll or that Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, is anything that any debts that were incurred prior to February 15th of 2020. It covers employee salaries, it covers mortgage interest, it covers rent and utilities. A business can apply for this, and they get their costs, their payroll costs together, which their payroll costs include any insurance that they might have, any 401k. It includes local and state taxes. It does not include federal taxes. They get all those numbers together and then multiply that number times 2.5, and that is the amount that they can apply for. Originally in the bill, it was discussed that it would be something that would include 1099 employees. That went back and forth, and trust me, I have a lot of 1099 employees with my company, so I drilled into this for a solid week, and it turns out that it is not going to include 1099 employees because tomorrow 1099 employees can start applying for this on their own. It has a fixed rate of 1% that fluctuated for the first week. It started at 4%, went down to 0.5%. It ended at 1%. It can be paid back over 2 years. that fluctuated. It started at 10 years. It now landed at 2 years that it can be paid back over, and payments are pushed off for 6 months. The most important part of this, now that we talk about payments, is that if a company does their job properly and documents everything that they have and documents that 75% of this was utilized for payroll, and that, of course, the rest of it was used for rent or mortgage or utilities, then this is a entirely forgivable loan, or in this case, a grant. It turns into a grant, and it is entirely forgivable. So a great program. Currently, I'll go through some numbers in just a minute on what we've seen here in Grayson County, but I saw a number today that out of the $300 billion, about $100 billion of that has been spoken for, and that is, believe me, not that the need isn't there, it's that the rest of it hasn't gotten through the local banks. This is, you have to apply to this through your local bank, and from the local bank, then they will make the decisions. As long as everything is in order, they normally will approve this. This is not a need base. This is truly something that you can come out and do. I want to make a point, because I was asked this week by a company. Does this mean that the minute that we get this loan, I have to bring my employees back into the office? We currently have a stay-at-home order. No, that's not what this was about. This was about being able to pay the employees, even if you are shuttered. If you have a restaurant that can't be opened, if you have a nail salon or a barbershop that cannot be opened, you are able to pay your employees during this time. You do not have to have the employees back in your office. In reality, the government looks at it as you're either going to pay them unemployment, or you're going to pay them through their work. They would rather have these people through work and keeping the money, keeping them on the payroll, so that when we come out the backside of this, they have that available to them. The other available loan, and there's multiple, but I'm covering these two. The other available loan that is out there and is a good one is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. They call it the EIDL loan, EIDL. This one can cover also payrolls, fixed debt, account payable, and other expenses that can't be paid because of disaster's impact. This loan can be up to $2 million. This loan comes off of your gross profits. You take gross profits, it can take 50% of that, but only up to $2 million. This loan has a 3.75% annual percentage rate on it. It can be 30 years to pay back, and none of this loan is forgivable. So this will be a loan that is entirely paid back. This loan is applied for through the Small Business Administration. And the important part of this loan, which businesses need to know, is that when you put this application in on the small business website, and I'm finding that it's taking a little bit longer, it should be within 72 hours, but I'm sure they are overwhelmed. It should be that within 72 hours you get an immediate $10,000 put into your bank account. They ask you for your bank account, and they put $10,000 into your bank account to keep you going while they review this loan. If your loan is disapproved, the $10,000 still stays with you. If the loan is approved and you're approved for $150,000, they take that $10,000 off and approve you for $140,000 at that time. So those are two of the loans that we are pushing through, we're pushing through to these businesses locally to tell them, here's the things that are available to you. And there are other ones available to them as well, but I wanted to hit the highlights of those two because many businesses need to know that as we go through this. We are helping. Go ahead. Was there any questions on those two? We are helping apply when help is needed. I personally have taken 17 calls from businesses. I've been out and visited a number of them. I've worked on the phone with a number of them. Other committee members have helped some with applications and with questions as well. Approximately 120 Grayson County small businesses have applied for the Paycheck Protection Program currently. And I would have to ask someone there, and I apologize for not knowing this, exactly how many there are in Grayson County, but currently 120 Grayson County, approximately, give or take, some numbers there. Approximately 120 Grayson County small businesses have applied for the Paycheck Protection Program. It's a good time while we have some tremendous banks in this area for me to stop and thank Skyline National Bank and all the help that they have provided me in getting up to speed, and also this committee. They were on the first call that we had, and they went through everything for us there. They have things have changed daily for them, and I feel that they have done a tremendous job of keeping me up to speed and being partners with not only this committee, but with the small businesses within Grayson County. We're also putting marketing plans together for this stay-at-home period. You'll see more of that as the slides continue. And we're putting some marketing plans together for after the stay-at-home period, as how do we help these companies come out the backside of this. You see, the next bullet points are what are the hurdles. And all three of these bullet points come down to information getting out. It's amazing to me that with the government saying this every day, it's on the news every day, and everything that you've seen online, that there are still some people that do not know that these plans are available. I get calls daily asking, what can I do? How can I do something? I don't know what to do. And it amazes me still that these people, that the businesses don't know. So we are addressing heavily in these meetings, how do we get this information out? The other thing is that some of these small businesses don't think they will qualify for it, or they don't think that they'll benefit from this. And again, I go back to my statement just a minute ago that this is not needs-based. This is something that every business, in my opinion, needs to apply for. I will never be accused of being a big government guy and wanting money to go out the door for government. However, I do understand the immediate need and the unbelievable need that these businesses have for something like this. So I had a business owner say to me the other day, hey, I heard about that, but I've got a decent amount of money sitting in, a few months of money sitting in off to the side. I can cover some of this myself. And I said, is that business money or is that personal? And they said, it's personal. I said, again, if this drags on for a period of time, I don't know how long. If you don't like today because you don't think you need it, and 2 weeks from now we'll find that something spikes and we end up where things are closed, God forbid, through June. All of a sudden, now your personal money is going into the business. You don't have anything, and everybody needs to apply. And then there are just some of them just don't know the rules. They think they just need to understand that both. They think that they can only do one or the other. They need to understand that both of these loans can apply to them. They can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program and get approved for that. They can also apply for the EIDL loan, and they can get approved for that. And so these businesses, if there's a need for it, need to understand exactly how that works. I've had companies call me that have large payrolls, and they get a large amount. I had another company that called me, and it was really the perfect storm for them. They're a cleaning company. They have people in Gatorade, and they have people in different places like that. And Gatorade called them and said, hey, this one person that you have in here cleaning, it's not going to cut it. We need somebody in every area of this plant, and we need it wiped down nonstop. I'm going to need at least 10 people, maybe more. Well, that person didn't have the ability based off of a 90-day pay from Gatorade to put 12 more people in there starting the following week. And so we got them in on the EIDL loan because the Paycheck Protection Program doesn't allow your business to grow. It only allows you to go back from what you had prior to February 15th. We got them into the EIDL loan immediately. They got the $10,000 put into their bank account that helped them be able to keep some of the employees that they had, pay for some of the employees that they are working with, and now the small business is going through, and they are going to get approved, I just heard today, for that, and they're going to be able to continue to have those employees. Marketing, if you go to the next slide, Carl. How do we market this how do we get this out for everybody to know? And I want to say that Bill Shepley has made it very clear to us that we have his support, we have the county support in getting this message out. Bill has said, listen, I've got some available funds. I want you to go ahead and use them. And I want to make sure that if you come up against an issue and it's funds that you need to solve the issue, I need you to come to me. I don't have an open checkbook, as nobody does, but I do have the backing that Bill has said, if you need something, I need you to come to me so that we can discuss it and we can talk about that as we go through this. We are going to have a logo made up for this committee. And the reason that we're doing that is because as we get out on social media, you don't want a haphazard look. You want one cohesive look, one recognizable piece that everybody can look at and say, oh, okay, that's the recovery committee. Yep, I've seen that logo before. I'm working with my marketing person for Eagle View. She's here out of Elk Creek. She's working on that for us to get the logo done. We should have the logo done early next week. We'll get the approval of Bill before we finalize anything. But we are certainly getting that done and should have that done pretty quickly. Also going to a one constant message is a tagline that goes at the end of everything. At the end of everything that you see that we will do, we'll say, think local. We are Grayson County. That, along with the logo, will hopefully get people, again, thinking about things from a local standpoint and keeping one cohesive message out there for everybody as we go on. Social media, we're going to heavily utilize social media. We're going to heavily utilize Facebook ads. Facebook ads can be targeted to just the Grayson County zip codes and can get out to everybody that has Facebook in that area. Will see those ads. Those ads are done at really $5 to $10 a day, and they will be able to reach tens of thousands of people as they go. And an ad that just basically says, if you have questions, call us. Here's the number. That phone number that is going to be out there is going to be my personal cell phone, and my personal cell phone rings. If I don't know the answer, I will get that out to somebody who does know the answer. But again, they know that when the phone rings, they've got one person who is going to pick that up. Not only are we going to talk about the committee on this, but Carl, if you could go to the last slide for just 1 second, and then we'll come back to this one, I would greatly appreciate it. And yep, right there. I'm no artist. The one with the pictures is what we're looking at, Carl. I'm not very good at this, which is why I have a marketing person, and she's much better than I am at this. But this is something that I just threw together that she will make prettier once everybody says, I like the way we're going here. I talked to Bill about it. He liked it. Basically, I want to get pictures of all the businesses in the county. Just keep driving around on a day where you're social distancing and you can get pictures. I can ask people to send me pictures once this starts to come out. If you've got a picture of your storefront, send it to me. And all we want to do is put this out on social media and say, stay safe. Grayson County small businesses will be here when this is over. Think local. We are Grayson County. And that just gets everybody in their mind to say, man, I haven't had Mexican food in a while. I can't wait till that opens again. Man, I can't wait for this to go over and look and do whatever it is. You can go back to that other slide there. Yep, there you go. Thank you, sir. We're also going to market some of this via the newspaper, and I know Bill may want to talk to that here in just a few minutes. I'll wait and let Bill talk to that in a few minutes, but we're looking at an ad that kind of does the same thing with some of our businesses and says the same thing where you open it up and you've got a full page ad. We hope that the newspaper will help in some way to just talk about the committee and do a story to let them know that we're here. All of the payroll protection program, the paycheck protection program has to be applied for by June. I'm going to tell anybody who is listening right now, if you own a small business, the money will not last until June. So if you are out there listening right now, you need to call me, and my number will be at the end of this. We will walk through how to do that. You need to get with Skyline National Bank or your local bank. However you do that, the money will not last long. They are going to run out of money. And just today, there was a voice vote in the Senate. That voice vote failed. There is going to be some gridlock on this while they try to add money to this account. Will it be there? Probably. I think they'll get it done, but it is going to run out of money. So if you're listening and you're a small business, at the end of this is my number. Call my number. Call your bank. Get it done. Do not wait, because you should be in this program. We're also going to use radio, 98.1 and 96.5. I have some prices from them where we will do multiple things. We will do a two-pronged approach for this. One will be just letting people know that we're here as a committee and you can call us. And that'll be a simple ad. That ad is either going to be free or at a greatly reduced rate from any advertising that would normally happen. And then we're going to give them as a, 98.1, 96.5 are also Grayson County businesses. They can't be giving all their money away at this time while companies are cutting back on advertising for them. We're going to buy some advertising off of them as well. And those that advertisement is going to be a quick hitting 15-second blurb, 30-second blurb that, again, says something to the simple fact of your Grayson County small businesses were here before this started. They're going to be here when it's over. Think local. We are Grayson County. Shop local. We are Grayson County. Don't forget us when it's over. We are Grayson County. And we're going to hit those as we go also. The team has, we're going to team with Tracy Cornett in Grayson County Tourism. Tracy is doing a tremendous job. For any of you that are not on Tracy's almost daily now email blasts, I know that Eagleview Event Center is. And so Tracy's team is doing a tremendous job at keeping everybody up to date. And I know she's looking at some marketing as well. We're going to make sure that we, that we team with Tracy and Grayson County Tourism so that we can make sure that we get the best out of this. And we're not working against each other, but we're working together. And the last slide there, Carl, if you would. We've worked through some things with Bill, and I know other topics that we cover on those calls. I'm not going to get into those today. Bill's going to cover some of that, I'm sure. If not, he's going to talk to the board and go through that. Those are things that are not for me to cover, but there are other discussions that are taking place on these board or on these committee meetings that I'm sure Bill will cover at some time. The conclusion is that this campaign should be a constant reminder that Grayson County is here to support local business and to help in any way possible. It is our job to get this information out to the community, and it is the community's job to pass it on to each and every person they know. Communication and clear message is key. There is support for business out there, and there is absolutely no reason why a Grayson County business or its employees should suffer during this time. I'm going to say that line again. There is absolutely no reason why a Grayson County business or one of its employees should suffer during this time with these grants and these loans out there. If there's any questions from anybody out there who owns a business, if there's any questions at all, my direct number is 276-768-9269. As soon as I'm off this call, I'm available for you to call me. 276-768-9269. Chris Butler, call me. We'll talk through it, and we will help you get the right application for what you need best, what fits your business best. Don't shoot the messenger if the best thing for you isn't a grant that is totally forgivable. I didn't make the rules. I'm playing within them, but we can get you some sort of money almost immediately. And I say this, within a week, we can get you some sort of money. I know some of the companies have put in for this Paycheck Protection Program. Were approved on Saturday, of this past Saturday, and a lot of those are going to be able to get their checks tomorrow. Some of them will get them the following Monday. In fairness to the banks, just yesterday I heard Vice President Pence tell them how to do closing at his press conference. So the banks are they're doing the best they can with what they're given. They're getting this information as they go. That's what I've got, board members, Mr. Shepley, and if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. It's great stuff. Mr. Shepley, would you have anything to add?
Yes, Supervisor Hash. I just want to say that on behalf of the people of Grayson County, that we want to give our heartfelt thanks to Chris Butler and to the members of this team that out of their own time have stepped forward to say, let's make sure that we take care of this county now, and we look into the future, and we prepare ourselves for the recovery from this terrible disaster that we've been going through. And the amount of work that has been put into this activity by this committee in this short period of time is absolutely amazing. It really shows the spirit of Grayson County and the collective wisdom and togetherness that occurs here. when we see a challenge, the folks of this county get things done. And Chris, we want to express our absolutely heartfelt gratitude to you for taking the lead on this. Also, we want to express our heartfelt thanks to Skyline Bank, because they have been overwhelmed with the request for accessing these loans and grants. And I know in particular Elizabeth Hash has been working late into the night in order to try to get done as much as we possibly can. And I can't say enough about how the stars have aligned for Grayson County to have someone like Paul Hoyle in place as our emergency services coordinator right now, and Chris Butler to step forward and help us with getting through this terrible situation. Thank you to both of you, and Supervisor Hash. If the board has any questions for Chris, I'd like to open that up.
I'd like to echo thoughts myself.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, Supervisor Ash, I have a couple things.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, good rundown, and again, to echo what Bill said, and Brenda and everybody else, just thanks for stepping out and taking this on. Just so I'm clear, these are more probably clarification questions, but given that this effort was born out of the crisis, there's no current relationship between this committee and what the Economic Development Authority is doing. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
That's correct, John.
Yeah. All right, that's good. I mean, one's got development in it, and this one's got recovery, so I think it's pretty clear. But based on a couple of things you said and that were written in the slides, is there a vision for this committee after the crisis is over? Now, you mentioned about after the stay-at-home order is lifted, but is the committee at this point thinking there's utility in this committee beyond the COVID-19 crisis?
I don't see why not. And Bill, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there. That's certainly, I leave that up to, I always say I serve at the pleasure of the president. So when Bill tells me, he's the president in this case, when he tells me to get out, I'm out. But I do see that, there are not just today. It took a crisis for everybody to call and start talking about grants and small business loans. But there are these things available to these companies or these small businesses every day, John. And I don't see why we couldn't have a committee like this in town that just somebody can call and say, "Man, I'm struggling," and instead of losing this business from the county, how can I, what can I do? And it might be something where some people who are intelligent people get together and help an individual. It could be that there's a loan out there that they just need short term, as that person who we helped get people into Gatorade earlier. So I think there is, John.
And I would agree completely with Chris, and I would add to that I'm talking with Brantley Ivy about the agricultural recovery part of this too, so that doesn't slip through the cracks. And Brantley's agreed to be part of this committee, so we're going to be expanding that particular area and trying to figure out how we can get some money for the agriculture component.
Yeah, that's a good point, since it's our number one driver, and I think we just got to continually remind ourselves that ag is economic development here, and a lot of it is small business for a lot of folks. That's good. You mentioned about your phone number, and of course, earlier in the presentation, Paul talked about the helpline. Is your information included in the volunteer packets that Kathy Cole's folks have when they take calls on the helpline, to make sure that if somebody does call that line, that your information is there with them? Has that cross-talk occurred?
It is not currently there, and it should be, absolutely. The other thing that Carl and I are working on, and completely my fault that it is not there yet, is that it needs to be on the website with a lot of the information on these loans. the reason that I guess I'm so good at talking about these loans is because I'm trying to save and keep my employees working at the same time. And so I've gone through all of these things for them. But this stuff changes daily and has been like drinking from a fire hose. So I haven't been able to get that out there, but I will commit that by early next week, by Monday, we'll have all of the information on the website. I'll have all the information to Carl so they can get it on the website, and we can get an information pack together so that the helpline can say, got it, here's a person you can call.
Yeah, no, there's no blame here. There's a lot going on, and you all are, drinking, as somebody said, from the fire hose while all oars are in the water. But I got to keep throwing those Navy terms out there for Paul. But I just wanted to make sure that crosstalk, because they get calls, about almost anything, and having just your phone number available related to business would probably be something that'd be helpful for them. The other thing, I think my last question is, most of what you talk about, and I understand why, because it's fast moving and literally breaking as we go. But is there considering any local programs, locally resourced programs the committee's kicking around? You don't need any specifics right now. I'm just, is that a direction? Or are you really thinking right now we want to get these government programs and loans and grants that have been approved into the hands of folks? That's our focus. That's our main effort. Is that?
Yeah, to answer that, as a person who needed needed to apply for one of these, I look at these local grants and the local money, and believe me, I want everybody to get them if they can. But the need is outweighing what is available there, and therefore, as I look at it, I think that the ability to get these local or these government ones and get them quickly. Bill and I had a long conversation about how quickly can these people get this money, and do we need to fund something within the government or within Grayson County in the short term? Right. And these loans are hopefully turning around so quickly. I think this needs to be a conversation that if the money does get spent, and I asked the question today, believe it or not, I asked the question of the White House today because Ivanka Trump started a small business recovery committee herself today, and I asked the question of the White House today: what is the spread you are seeing, a percentage of this going to rural communities versus Charlotte versus Roanoke versus Fairfax, and how do we make sure we get our piece of that pie? So, the answer could be that we need to do something locally if this runs out of money and Senate and Congress can't get themselves together to fund it further, while we we end up with, out of these 120 businesses that have been that have submitted, let's say 70 of them get approved, and 50 of them they would like to approve, but the money's not there. We may have to look at that point, and I think that the next conversation in the next meeting has to be what happens if, so that we're not playing catch up, we're ahead of it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for stepping up again, and just to you and all the members of the committee, and to Bill. Well done, and good luck. We need it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else with comment? Or?
Hey, sir, one more thing, Bill, and I wanted to just say, since it has to do with Grayson County and the schools before I go, that I was in the superintendent's office today, and we filmed for WDBJ a segment on Wi-Fi hotspots and how the school is going and how everything is. We had them over here at Eagle View about 5:30 today as they were looking at the hotspot here. So if you tune into WDBJ tonight, the county is represented there with Superintendent Wilmore and myself talking about the hotspots in the county at 11 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you very much again. Without any further on that issue, no more questions, we'll move on to new business. Mutual aid with Washington County. Sheriff Bond.
Yes, Supervisor Hash, I have a request of a renewal of a mutual aid and cooperation agreement for law enforcement services for 2020 and 2023 from the County of Washington, Virginia. With your approval, I'd like to read that to the board.
This is pretty well a standard agreement we've had in the past years. Would anybody make a motion to forego the reading and pass this?
I make that motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. And this being, I guess it would need a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept this mutual aid agreement? We did that.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Sutherland, aye. Mr. Revels?
Aye.
Mr. Fan?
Aye.
Mr. Belton? Mr. Hash, aye. Okay. We wouldn't need any further action on that, Mr. Shepley.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Fan, it faded out for Hash, it faded out for just a second.
Okay. We wouldn't need any further action on that. Is that
No,
take care of that?
That will take care of that. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the Eagle Bottom project phase 2.
Yes, sir. We need the approval of the Board of Supervisors on a program design as part of the DHCD grant requirements for Eagle Bottom Phase 2 program design. I'd be glad to read that to you, unless you would rather follow the same pattern as the last document.
Okay, any discussion or do I have a motion?
I so move.
I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Sutherland?
Aye.
Mr. Revels?
Aye.
Mr. Fan?
Aye.
Mr. Belton? Mr. Hash, aye.
Thank you.
Next, we'd move on to surplus, the sheriff's office.
Yes, Supervisor Hash, we have the Sheriff's Office is submitting for surplus a 2001 Chevrolet S10 pickup, VIN number 8862. It's two-wheel drive with approximately 112,000 miles. It's a vehicle, this vehicle is in good condition, just not using it anymore. It was a seizure vehicle from several years ago.
Okay. Would this be put on government bids or what? I don't know what that's called.
Gov deals.
Okay, gov deals. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Revels makes the motion. I'm sorry, who was second?
Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda. Mr. Fant? Mr. Belton? Mr. Hash, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get back to my check. Okay, board appointment.
Yes, Supervisor Hash, we have for the formation of the Recreation Advisory Committee, we have a recommendation for a representative from the Elk Creek District, and that would be Justin Dixon. We have a recommendation for a representative from the Old Town District. That would be Seth Baker. We're still looking for a rep from the Providence District. a rep for the Wilson District, and an at-large representative. That's for the Recreation Advisory Committee. Would you like for me to go through all of these, and or do you want to take them committee by committee, Supervisor Hash?
Let's do it committee by committee. Is there a motion concerning the two that have been nominated? Mr. Dixon and Mr. Baker are presented letters, let me say.
I make a motion for that.
Pardon?
Supervisor asked just a question on is it better to appoint those two or wait till we have a full slate and appoint them all at one time and activate the committee at the same time?
Okay. You want to make that in the way of a motion to table it?
I guess I was asking just kind of for the board, just would it be better is it the pleasure of the board that we would appoint 2 members of a 5-member board or committee, or should we just wait till we get the other 3 and then appoint them all at one time? That's all I'm.
Okay, yeah, that's a valid point. Any other thoughts from any of the other members?
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay. So would we have a motion to table appointments for the Rec Advisory Board till the next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Fant makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? I guess okay.
This is Mr. Fant.
Mr. Fant? Okay. Mr. Rebels? Mr. Belton? Mr. Hash? Aye. Okay. Next.
Oh. He's gone.
Can you still hear us?
We're ready for the Twin County.
He's cutting out.
Yeah, can you hear us, Supervisor Hash?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. So the Twin County Chamber of Commerce, not because of lack of support, but just out of a large number of committees and boards that I'm serving on, I needed to step off this board. I don't know if Supervisor Belton knows if I suggested a couple of people to the chamber. I don't think there's been any action taken on that at this time, but I was wondering if Supervisor Belton had any update on anybody that may have been brought in to take my place.
There's nobody can take your place.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The one that you did say something about was interested. Is she still interested, you think? I could bring it up at the next meeting. But we're doing it.
Yeah, she's very interested.
Okay.
Yeah, she's very.
We haven't moved on any yet.
Okay. Would that be the case in the next Twin County Free Clinic?
The Twin County Free Clinic, they will need to make a recommendation on who they would like to have participate from the board. So I'm just waiting for them to make a decision on who they would like to bring on board.
Okay. Well, you want to just make a
just a question on that. So, Bill, on the free clinic deal, I'd sent a guy named Saul Chase, who lives over in Freeze, that was interested in serving on the free clinic. But did I understand you to say that they're going to tell us who they want? Or could you tell me that process again, please?
Yeah, I remember you doing that, Supervisor Fant, and I think what I need to do is I need to let the Twin County Free Clinic know of the interest of that individual, and then they can make their decisions as to where they want to go. But I appreciate you reminding me about that.
Okay. Okay. Would there be a motion to maybe table both the Chamber of Commerce nominee and the pre-claim?
I make that motion, Mike.
Okay, Mr. Revels makes a motion. Do I have a second? I'll do the second. Okay, Mr. Fant makes a second. Ms. Sutherland?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Belton?
Aye.
And Mr. Hash, aye.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us down to the resolution for the stormwater.
Yes, Supervisor Hash, we have a resolution to end local administration of the Virginia Stormwater Management Program for Grayson County. We are required by the state to have a certified stormwater management individual on staff. With Jimmy Moss moving on to a different position, that we do not have a certified person at this time. It takes several months to get to that point, and in the interim, and possibly for the long term, we are recommending what is in this resolution. So with your permission, I'd like to read the resolution unless you would like to do otherwise.
Okay, hearing no motion, if you would please go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Resolution to end local administration of the Virginia Stormwater Management Program. Whereas in 2013, the county held a public meeting where a working committee was formed to develop stormwater ordinances, fees, and implementation plan for the board's consideration. And whereas on March 13, 2014, the Board of Supervisors held a public hearing where it received public comments on the proposed stormwater management ordinance. And whereas on May 8, 2014, the Board of Supervisors held a public meeting and approved the adoption of the stormwater management ordinance effective July 1, 2014. And whereas 2014, the county has administered the program with due diligence in good faith and with ongoing correspondence with DEQ to assure compliance with state laws and regulations. And whereas the program has granted only 4 permits since adopting the stormwater management ordinance, and whereas the stormwater management program has been subject to the resignation of the stormwater administrator as of February 29, 2020, now therefore be it resolved that the Grayson County Board of Supervisors desires to terminate the county administered program and transition program oversight to DEQ effective August 1st, 2020, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors authorizes the county attorney and county administrator to draft ordinance and plan a public hearing to consider termination of the local program, adopted this 9th day of April 2020 in the county of Grayson, Virginia.
Okay. This will need a roll call, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this roll call will be with, unless, is there any discussion? Okay. Hey, Mike, just so I understand, so we have we're doing this because Mr. Moss left, but we don't see the need for a program. DEQ can handle that. That's the gist of what we're saying.
Yeah, basically, Supervisor Fan, each county has an option of either doing this themselves or having DEQ do this for them on contract. And given the fact that we have lost our certified stormwater administrator, and the process of becoming certified is between 6 months to a year, well, we thought at this time that the most prudent thing to do was to work with DEQ on this.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Sutherland?
Aye.
Mr. Revels?
Aye.
Mr. Fant? Mr. Belton?
Aye.
Mr. Hash? Aye.
Thank you,
Okay.
Supervisor Ash. Hey, that's good, you got a roll call vote, but we didn't have a motion or a second. So we do need that.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
That'd be Mr. Revels. Mr. Fant? Okay. Do we need to go through the roll call again, or we accept that?
I have that already recorded.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Greenhorn. Okay. Next we'll go with resolution waiver of personal property penalties and interest.
Yes, Supervisor Hash, if I could read a resolution in an attempt to try to lessen the burden on our citizens from a tax standpoint. We have a resolution that we have worked out with the Treasurer's Office, and I'd like to read that to the board.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Grayson County, Virginia, to extend the deadlines for payment of certain local taxes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the county's Director of Emergency Management has declared a local emergency, whereas the current COVID-19 pandemic, the emergency, and whereas the county's Board of Supervisors wished to ratify and confirm the declaration of emergency consistent with the adoption of its emergency ordinance instituting emergency procedures to ensure continuity of county government in response to COVID-19 disaster, and whereas widespread closures, social distancing, and recommendations to avoid public gatherings have created excess burdens upon the businesses of the county, and whereas the Board of Supervisors desires to provide additional time for payment of certain taxes due to the emergency, and hereby finds that good cause to do so exists in accordance with Virginia Code 58.1-3916. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Grayson, Virginia, that number one, the declaration of local emergency by the Director of Emergency Management is hereby ratified and confirmed. The deadline for payment of all personal property taxes imposed by the county is hereby postponed for a term of 60 days from June the 5th, 2020 to August the 5th, 2020. Number three, all payment for personal property taxes made during the extended deadline period shall constitute payments made on time, and no penalty or interest shall be applicable to payments received during the extension period. And number four, the clerk of the board is hereby directed to provide a copy of this resolution to the Treasurer and Commissioner of Revenue. Number five, this resolution does not relieve liability nor waive noncompliance by any taxpayer that occurred prior to the declaration of emergency issued by the Governor of Virginia on March 12, 2020, adopted this day of April 20th in the County of Grayson, Virginia. And Supervisor Hash, as a point of clarification, in the very first statement, and when it says the county's Director of Emergency Management, from an official standpoint, in this particular case, the county administrator is considered the Director of Emergency Management.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Is that Mr. Fant?
Rebels.
Revels, thank you, sir.
Daniel second.
Yeah.
Fant, second. Okay. All right. Roll call vote. Mr. Belton.
Aye.
Mr. Hash, aye. Mr. Revels.
Aye.
Mr. Fant.
Aye.
And Ms. Southern.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda would be the amendment to the budget calendar.
Yes, sir. We had a discussion at the last budget meeting about the changes that are on this calendar, and so we were submitting this to the board for your discussion and some possible approval.
Okay. Yes, sir. Anyone with conflicts or issues with the date? Okay. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the amended budget calendar.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Belton, second.
Okay, Belton, second. All right.
Supervisor
Who was-
Hash, was the motion John, Supervisor Fan or Supervisor Revels?
Rebels.
Revels and Belton, second. Okay, Ms. Sutherland,
Aye.
Mr. Fan,
Aye.
Mr. Hash, aye. Okay, that brings us to County Administrator report.
Yes, Supervisor Hash, the main thing I wanted to stress to the board and ask for your help on, and also the community, is we've gotten our first report on our compliance with the requirements for the census, and we are below the state averages right now, and we really need to make sure, particularly in this time of crisis, we need to make sure that everyone completes the census information. We're looking for the newspaper to continue to publish that contact information so that people can get it done. And a large part of what we will get for reimbursement when this crisis is over could be tied into the census. So please encourage the citizens in your districts and throughout the county to complete the census. That's all I have, Supervisor Hash.
Okay. Any on the board haven't heard any requests for time to speak. Does anyone have anything? Okay. All right. We have a closed session on the agenda, and I guess at this point the live cast would end. Mr. Caldwell, do I have a motion to go into closed session related to personnel matter pursuant to 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia?
Rebels, make the motion.
Revels. Okay. Who do I have a second?
Matt, second.
Okay, Mr. Belt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay, we are now in closed session.